think everywhere we go, someone wants to take a picture of our child or say hi.
And from what I remember, I think Nomta mentioned that sometimes they allow it.
Yeah.
Diva Mile don't really allow it at all.
Yeah, it depends. It really depends. And if you're family, I know you, your friends, of course, why not share that? But I think the weirdest one was the plumber who came to our home. I was sitting there with Daddy while I'm translating, sitting there in her little chair. And before the man left, he was like, "Oh, cute. Can I take a photo?" I'm like,
why?
Is that part of the service too?
We needed our faucet fixed, stuff coming all out of it, and you talking about, can I take a photo of your baby who's sitting there innocently? We're just trying to make sure she's protected. But that was so odd. Even his boy, his partner who came with him was just like,
his partner was like, "Why are you asking to take a picture of this family's baby?" Awkward. But that's
the flip side of it, right? The flip side is, I remember my experience living in Italy doing Hair, the musical. My friend Bianca, she had really sat me down and said, "Listen, excuse me, some people are not approaching you in a negative way.
No,
they really find you to be beautiful."
And
when she
curious.
Said, right. She's curious. You're beautiful, however it is. And it really opened my eyes that long ago to think I don't have to take everything as a negative thing.
No.
And it reminds me of a few different things I read in the Word about just not kind of jumping to certain conclusions and allowing things to be, when they're out of your control, allowing God to make the change in you to see what they are. I can't think of any particular verse right now, but
I just sing the song, "Don't stress,
yeah.
just be blessed."
Shout out to your song. Absolutely. And it can be very stressful when you are always on guard, right? Always thinking that somebody has, they're looking at you a certain way, or there's something that there has an ulterior motive. But it's so much better when you just open up to understand that this is your reality, right?
This is their reality.
Right. But it doesn't always pan out to be innocent, because if I can share, I was working at a school here, and
that was pretty serious.
I was the only hired teacher who was black, male, and there was no black women either, but the only black teacher there. There was a Hispanic teacher, there's Filipino teachers, but for the most part, everyone else was a white male from different countries, France or Alabama or Netherlands. So majority were white male teachers. So they didn't really have to navigate, I guess, the white male teacher thing. They just felt buddy-buddy with those teachers. With me, they always had the questions like, do you play basketball? Are you into this? Are you into that? And it was interesting because when I was first approached, I wasn't offended, but I was more like, the other teachers don't get the same type of questions. Mind you, some of them were there already, and they might have asked some questions. I'm assuming that they didn't ask them, did they play basketball? Because automatically, black guy, tallish, he can play basketball. That's not all. That's kind of the prerequisite, right? But it seems to be that there wasn't any nuance in any other questions. And so when I presented them things like theater and acting and art, they were like, oh. It was like this opened up idea of what it means to be a black person in their presence.
Like a different angle.
Right.
There's so many
facets, right? But I had to start using it as a teachable moment, as opposed to something where, because people are asking questions, I am exhausted with the idea of educating them on who I am. Because in life, you're going to have to kind of go through things where you're going to have to explain yourself. It's not always going to be people just know. And I will say, as a New Yorker, sometimes, because there's all types of people around, and people have this assumption of we all just in the grind together. There's not a whole bunch of explaining all the time. But I could also, I'm sure people can argue with me by saying that maybe if you're in a corporate America, even in a New York space, and you're trying to wear a head wrap or trying to wear braids or whatever it is, people might be like, oh, what is that? That's interesting, Colleen. That's interesting, Shaniqua. That's interesting, Tyrone, whatever, these stereotypical names. But I've had people, even in New York, go like this and grab my afro, and I'm like, I asked you not to touch my hair. What's that about? I'm glad I haven't experienced that here, but I have had questions from actually some of my foreign teachers like, oh, why'd you decide to get the little dreadlings?
Dreadlings.
I'm like, oh my goodness. At the time I was wearing twists.
Yeah.
And they were long twists, and he automatically thought they were dreads. But
it just sounds like wherever you go, you sort of have to explain yourself.
Yeah.
And we're not trying to be negative or sound like we're complaining.
No, we're just talking.
We're just sharing like what we've experienced as individuals, and obviously now as a family.
Yeah.
That's why we did a fun talk the other time at the university, how media really affects us in different ways, and these were one of the topics that we covered.
We were able to be in front of several students for so many days, and we mentioned it in the podcast that we came back in, that was something we were navigating and juggling with the concert. But they had their idea of even beauty, of how certain Western things were, I guess, in terms of their idea, better than stuff here, when some of it is coming from the same manufacturer and all these different things. But that is a whole nother kind of...
It's a whole other topic.
Yeah, it is another topic. Hey family, if you've been enjoying this podcast today, please be sure to
subscribe and hit the notification button.
Thank you so much for your support. Now back to today's episode. We should talk about how our daughter is perceived here.
Yeah, I mean, I shared a little bit about 2 stories that one of the phrases you learned in Chinese is how ke ai, cute. We appreciate that. We thank God. We think our daughter is cute, but it's even a blessing to know that other people can really...
People have stopped their cars on the street to see our daughter on the stroller.
Yeah.
We go into the bank. Everyone is trying to come and see our daughter. It is quite alarming, the attention. And the thing is, I try to be really incognito in most spaces, but that's the thing that God has really helped me with, to be like, listen, it's special. You are here. It's different. And now that you have a daughter or a child in general, that reflection of you is something that people haven't seen. And so we have to figure out what to do with that, right? We have to figure out, like, what aspect of that can we, I wouldn't say capitalize on, it sounds like it's just a product, but how can we enrich ourselves to see the beauty in that more and more? Because it happens quite often, and it's very obvious.
It's very obvious. And, you know, you really have to seek God, and also be more aware of what does that mean. Holy Spirit can obviously lead us to understand what that means. But
and
there's
it's not always
definitely
a threat, but we have to be protective of our daughter, you know.
People usually are smiling. They feel a sense of love and connection. They want to hold her.
Right.
Yeah. And for us, I think
they sometimes think they know her.
Yes.
Or think they think like whatever she's doing is interesting and unique. Our daughter, she's a very chill baby.
Very chilled.
We did an entire interview here with my friend Chase, and she did not speak the entire time. She just wanted us. So she was crying, and then
she was crying a lot, and we were like, what are we going to do with this interview? As soon as we picked her up, held her, she was like, I'm good now. That's all I wanted. Just wanted to sit with mommy and daddy.
And somebody gave us such a sweet compliment about how they felt that it was a testament to the environment. And I will say that even in looking at the progression of some children who have troubled lives, or even kids in my family, cousins or whatnot, certain times environments can completely change how a child reacts. We pretty much maintain our lives the way that they were before. It's now we're including her in our regularly scheduled programming, if you will. And now adding the element of her being different. I think my concern was automatically what would be, if I'm bringing her to a daycare here, how is that going to be experimental? Is that going to feel like, oh, it's just another baby? Or will we have to kind of really be like, I need a monitor here to know like what's going on? Because that's, in this topic, we're talking about being very different here. That's another aspect where the protection comes, because we're Papa and Mama Bear, but the idea of releasing her into a space where people are not used to this type of baby. I don't know, you can speak on that, but I still have a little bit of reserve because I just don't want her to be the guinea pig in that moment, just because you're so curious.
Yeah, I mean, we're blessed and thankful that this season we could work from home.
Yeah.
Really spend time together with her. If we do decide to bring her to her daycare, I hope it'll be one where we're able to monitor her, just like our friends.
Or
They're
international
able,
daycare, right? Something where people are constantly involved from different cultures, because I think it's so important, especially with, I hate to say it, with little black girl, you just don't want, oh, your hair, and like pulling. I'm always thinking about those types of things. Like, it's so different that you also don't want the innocence to turn into something where it traumatizes her.
Yeah.
You have to consider that too.
Yeah.
It's not about we're all about race. It's like we just have to be in the reality of our daughter is different.
And right now she can't really say, oh, I don't like this or I like that. It's just she's adored, and she just gives you what you basically see. And I wanted to say something, but I forgot.
No, hopefully you get your thought again. But remember when somebody said to us, it was like, oh, her hair is getting long. Do you want to cut it?
Oh,
we don't do that. We hope.
Yeah, and usually, I mean, we don't want to do that yet, but it was just interesting that the person who said anyway, it doesn't matter. It's hot now, so you want to cut baby's hair so they stop sweating a lot. But for us, of course, we have different plans and intentions of what we would like to do with her
flourishing
hair.
Beautiful. You know, I mean, everybody usually wants that. If you want your child bald, that's great. That's not our story. We would like her to be naturally growing the way she does. Even a son, I feel like I'm not going to make him bald immediately. I'm sure that there'll be different conversations about that. But cutting her hair, what do you think about?
I'm saying because I used to shave my hair when I was a little girl. It's normal in Swaziland.
I mean, my parents had a low fade, low cut immediately. I'm sure it's manageable, but yeah, in 2023, I don't know about that. But
yeah, when it comes to daycare, the time will come. We will learn and understand what's the best daycare. It's called daycare for a reason. I think they would understand what kind of child they're receiving.
You cannot assume that.
You can't assume. So that's why I said we can have those that have monitors where you monitor. The parent can actually monitor their child.
Which is a privilege. I mean, not every place has that type of thing. But in your experience, because I've been talking about mine a bit, like how have you perceived just a little bit of racial kind of dynamics here for you?
I'll be honest, I don't remember how it was like when I first moved here, because I went into international school. When I finally went to a local college, I already thought mentally I'm Taiwanese. I understand being Asian. So how I approached everything, it wasn't like, here's a foreigner. But I really wanted to connect with Taiwanese. I didn't have that much of, conflict? Not conflict.
That's fine.
I didn't feel like culture shock or an outsider.
Gotcha.
But for some reason, it was after I got married with you, I realized that I'm a foreigner.
I done brought you right down to the dumps.
Once, because I hear about it all the time. No, but because of how people are reacting when we're together. Like, wow, a full-on
nuclear black family
in town. So people are curious, right?
Yeah.
Now that we have a baby, people are even more curious. Like, how did that happen? I mean, to the point that when I'm walking with baby Lilac on a carrier and pushing the stroller, people will stop to look in the stroller, like, what's in there? And in my head, I'm like, the baby's up here.
Right.
So I don't know if it's even a process of being aware what they're doing, or it's just.
I mean, but not even just about that. You never experienced anything that made you feel other because you already acclimated yourself with the culture. You mentioned you felt Taiwanese here already.
Yeah, so even if I get stares or so on, I wouldn't right away feel there because I'm a foreigner.
Did you ever feel like
weird? Yeah.
Did you ever feel like there are things, maybe even for people viewing who might be Taiwanese, that maybe you prefer them not do as it pertains to race, or you would wish that they would consider as it pertains to race? Are there certain things?
I think the quite often question, or when we're seen, is maybe being identified as, oh, black person instead of, oh, foreigner, right? There's a distinction where whether it's a kid or so on, they'll say, oh, a black person.
That brings me to my point I've been seeing a lot in the political sphere. A lot, the thing is, I'm an American, right? But people feel the need to categorize me as an African American, when the flip side is, I've never ever heard my Puerto Rican friends, my Indian friends saying, I'm Indian American, I'm Puerto Rican American. A lot of times in their defense, they'll just be called Indian or they'll be called Puerto Rican, even though they're Americans. But there isn't this distinction of the type of American they are. It's like once somebody says, oh, you're from Puerto Rico, they're like, yeah, but I was born here. Also, you're American. They're not really categorized in the same way. It's like there's always this extra distinction of the blackness that creates the African American. So in every country, the negro or the whatever, or however they say it, you would prefer it just be like, well, I'm a foreigner.
Yes.
Because I actually myself went on Instagram one day and I described the fact that everyone who's not of this homogeneous society, which East Asian, you're a foreigner. To us, a foreigner is almost an insult, like, oh, she a foreigner, she foreign. And some people like the word foreign in different contexts. It's foreign cars, or I like foreign women. But when you're just labeled foreigner, it's not always so pleasant in the States to hear that.
In the States, right?
Yeah, because the immigrant association to that feels like you're an illegal alien and all these different things. But here, it's just a distinction.
Yeah, so if you don't speak the language, you're constantly would probably go through an offensive season, being offended season. But if you speak the language,
right?
You can quickly translate and rationalize, oh, this is what they actually mean.
Yeah. Or even hearing words that you might deem to be wrong, like the word this, or is it that?
That part.
We should go there.
Yeah.
Is it this?
That
Okay.
is nigga.
So no, before you say that, this is Zega, right?
Zega.
So if you're saying, oh, I want that, you'll say Zega or Zegama, right? Or something like that. Okay, I'm getting better. But
nigga is that.
Nigga.
Oh, I want that.
Okay, so this is Zega. I want this. But that is nigga. And we all know the association to a word with the N. And not to make it heavy, but as soon as you hear it, and it's in context to you as a black person, you're like, wait, what? I know when I first heard it, I was like, wait, what is going on here? And then I joke about it now because my Taiwanese friends are like, oh yeah, I know. Especially the ones who have Western influence, or they have the dynamic, or they even have spouses who are not from Taiwan. But it really means, for me, this entire episode makes me think about how you have to open up your heart in new spaces. How, especially in a marriage, you have to, me being married to Diva Mile has allowed me to be less offended by a lot of things, and really to understand that it's not really always what people say. What are their intentions, right? People can be saying one thing and be thinking another. And even in our different dynamics with friendships or dynamics with parents, different things in our lives, like, what are people saying? How do they speak about you when you're outside of a room? Every person I've known who I've met here through you, a lot of the times, they only say highly great things about you.
Yeah.
Even when we see translations of...
Oh, you mean about me?
About you, yeah. Right. They're always speaking so highly of you. Whether you're beautiful or just a beautiful spirit, they're always speaking highly. So I have to use that as a reflection of, like, if I'm thinking somebody is speaking about me in a negative way here, I have to first assess, like, who am I associated with? Like, where would they be coming from? And what is the dynamic that I've given them that would to say, oh, this guy left me with this feeling.
Correct.
So usually it wouldn't be negative because I wouldn't approach somebody negatively. So whether or not they're asking that find me a black guy, or they're doing something that might seem to be like a little odd because they're staring or too curious,
or they're just simply saying excuse me, but maybe because they don't know how to say it in English, they use body language. It's like you constantly have to think that's not what they mean. Obviously your intuition also tells you if this person's tripping, or they're just trying to communicate with you in their best way.
But it's a lesson in assumptions, right? Culture comes with narrative assumptions. Culture comes with what you know. That's how prejudice starts. But the thing, to answer the question I asked you, is I would actually request, and maybe it's not even of Taiwanese people, I would request that when you meet somebody of another culture, don't just take the things that you know of that as the barometer to relate to them.
Yeah.
Speak to the person as they are. Get to know them in the setting that you meet them in, and find some common ground in what they're interested in, genuinely.
Yeah.
Genuinely.
Without having a preconception of who they are when you approach them.
Or having a preconception thinking that because this person is of their ilk or culture or skin tone, that automatically that's something they relate to. Oh, LeBron James. Oh, Martin Luther King. Oh, this. Oh, Beyonce.
Obama.
Like, whatever it is, like, don't use as a barometer. I used an example with our workshop. I was like, listen, if I walk around and say, oh, I have noodles and chopsticks, aren't you excited? That's the same thing that happens to me when people are like, oh, so the Knicks and LeBron James. I'm like, he's probably not even the Knicks. He's probably on some other team, or Lakers, or whatever it is, right? Lakers, right? But even that, you see how I made the mistake? I'm not immersed in that.
No.
But because that's what you see on TV or media shows you that aspect of maybe my culture, you automatically think, well, this is going to trigger something in him that excites him, right? Phone, sorry guys. But it doesn't always excite us. It doesn't always get our blood flowing. It makes it so limiting in our thought of you, because it doesn't open up the space for me to just allow you to see who I am. Is that fair to say?
No, it's completely fair.
Yeah.
And that's good to think that way when you're talking to someone or approaching them, like you said, or meeting them for the first time. Remove what you think could be and just know them for them.
Yeah, know them for them. And it's such a beautiful thing in a country
It's
where,
like a marriage. It's like a relationship.
yeah, just
right?
starting to peeling the onion, peeling the layers each and every time you're with the person, and allowing that to be the common ground. Not, well, you know, back in my day, black people, listen, just experience me for me. If I wasn't black, how would you approach me? How would you relate to me? You'd have to get to know me.
Yeah.
And I am doing the same here. I'm not trying to allow people's curiosity to be the same thing that might be seen as a threat here. It's just,
there's so much we could share about this. I think we might even have 2 episodes of this
or
topic.
3 or 4, and bring other people on. And different people have different varying degrees. But my last word on this, and you can have another word, is remember, your attitude matters and how people approach you. I had to really learn that over and over again. Your attitude matters. And so whether you're a foreigner in a country where it's homogeneous, or whether you're a person who's in a melting pot, you are the arbiter usually of the way people treat you. You know, people might already have a preconceived notion, and they might have their own prejudices or bigotry, yes. But usually it's how you walk into the world is really a big part of it, I would feel, you know. Tell us in the comments if you disagree or agree. We don't have to be agreeing on everything, but it's how I have experienced my life to be true, for sure.
No, that's a fact, I think. And that's why maybe I've been able to adapt so well in Taiwan, is I didn't come in with my own agenda, but I got to understand the people here and really understand how they communicate. And then now they probably didn't see me as just a foreigner all the time, but they saw me for me. And now I'm experiencing it as a person who's married. And it's a different I have to start all over again, you know.
Well, I mean, I'm learning, I'm growing each day to just let it be what it is.
It's a different season though. When you're single, you experience differently. Now that we're married, it's going to be the same way. We have to, I don't want to use the word educate, but
we have to deprogram a lot of the things that we know to be our comfort zone when it comes to people dynamics, because that's all we're talking about, is we're approaching humans in a way that is supposed to feel and be loving and kind
and connect
with them genuinely. But We know that this can be a very long topic, so we'll
Yeah.
stop there. But we thank you guys so much. We have a lot in store. Thank you for watching last episode. We will not have such a long break again, probably anytime soon. We're probably going to go down to 1 day a week right now. If you've noticed, I believe that we didn't post on Tuesday, but Thursdays, you know, at certain times. We're not going to even set a time anymore right now.
We're just going to do what we love to do.
Yeah, do what we want. Oh, that was her heart speaking.
and do and love to do. And hopefully you'll be able to subscribe, hit the notification button and bell, not button, or and you'll be able to keep up with us with One More Day.
Yeah, we love you all, and thanks again for tuning in.
Love you guys.